Hey, it's TGP, and yes, my Christmas tree is up, and it's not even Thanksgiving. Before we get into the video, let's get to some general housekeeping. First of all, we'd love to hear what you think about the PlayStation Portal. We just ask that you keep it civil in the comment section. Also, we paid for this device with our own money, so we can give you an unfiltered and unsponsored review. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. If you're new here and you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe because it helps out the channel a ton. And without further ado, let's get into the review. So who is it for? Not to be confused with Sony's first ever handheld, the PlayStation Portable. The PlayStation Portal is a remote-only device. It's meant to cater to a very niche part of the gaming community, and honestly, if you're not in that niche, it might not be for you. But in this review, we're going to cover everything that you need to know to make an informed decision, as well as our general thoughts on the Portal and why it reminds us of an Apple device in more than a few ways, and whether or not that's a good thing. But before we get into any of that, let's talk unboxing. Unboxing the Portal is pretty standard fare. It's packaged well, and the box isn't bigger than it needs to be, which I can definitely appreciate. All that really comes in the package is your PlayStation Portal, a USB-C to USB-C cord, and a couple of manuals. But everything feels very premium and secure, so no complaints on that end. Setting up the Portal is extremely easy. You boot up to a menu with a Wi-Fi selection. You select your Wi-Fi, type in the password, log into your PlayStation account after you're connected. After you do that, you select your PS5, and you're ready to get gaming. If you haven't done remote play before, you're going to have to turn on a few settings on your PS5 before you can get going, and there was a day one patch to the Portal itself, so you're going to have to download that before you get to gaming. Shouldn't take more than 5 to 10 minutes, and then you're ready to go. All in all, very quick, very easy. The settings on the device are very bare bones. You're not going to find a ton of customization options. You slide in on the touchscreen and it gives you a quick settings menu. On that menu, you can disconnect from your PS5 and put your PS5 into rest mode when you're done with it. It also has a tab for PlayStation Link and the headphones that you can get with that. We'll touch more on those in a bit. It has a brightness slider, and then it has the actual settings button. Once you click on the settings button, you'll be brought to a screen with more options. On that screen, you have a network tab, you have a system tab, display and brightness tab, and then finally a controller tab. All of those settings are pretty self-explanatory and they don't go anywhere too deep. Things like cutting on the light bar lights or the microphone light, but it suffices for what it is. The PlayStation Portal has an 8-inch LCD screen with touch capability that clocks in around 1080p and can reach up to 60 frames per second. It's a really gorgeous panel. It's not too thick, but it's also not too thin where it feels very fragile. The colors really pop on it, but the brightness isn't the best, so taking it outdoors might not be ideal, but for indoor use it's more than adequate. And honestly, it's not an OLED panel, but it's about as good as LCDs get. The feel in the hand might be the most impressive thing the device has going for it. Sony essentially took a DualSense, cut it in half, threw the 8-inch screen in between it, and then put it back together. And while that may not look the sleekest or make it the most portable, it definitely is the best for the feeling in the hand. And it definitely maxes out in the comfort department. For instance, when you use the Joy-Cons with the Nintendo Switch, it definitely doesn't feel the best in the hand. I personally had to buy an Ori split pad just to be able to use it in handheld mode for long periods of time, so something like this is definitely welcome, and you can't beat the fact that it just feels like a DualSense. The weight is distributed perfectly, and whether you're laying in bed or you have the device propped up, it never feels awkward or unbalanced. You also get all the major features of the DualSense with haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. The controller's touchpad is moved to the touchscreen, but it doesn't feel any less intuitive once you get the mechanics down. So battery life is said to last between 7 and 8 hours, and in my playtime I would say that is accurate. One actual benefit of the PS Portal being remote only is that none of the device's actual hardware is processing or doing the heavy lifting on any of the games. So while graphically intensive games on other handhelds like the Switch or the Steam Deck may kill battery faster, it doesn't matter what you're playing on the PlayStation Portal, whether it is Cyberpunk 2077 or a 2D Sonic the Hedgehog game. It's all going to stream and load the same on the Portal. That means that your battery life won't be sapped at a quicker rate if you're playing a more graphically intensive game. And that's pretty awesome. And that comes with all the features of the PS5, so you get those quick SSD load times and things like that. It doesn't get much easier to use than this device. From powering it on, you're presented with a literal portal on the screen. You tap a button to wake up your PS5, it connects, and then you're good to go. You're going to be playing just like you would on the TV, and if your TV is actually on, you'll see that it lines up one for one. It should be noted the device doesn't allow you to view any of the apps on your media tab, so if you were thinking about using this for Netflix in bed or something, you might need to look into something else. So the lack of Bluetooth is honestly a bit puzzling. I know it's a hot button issue with the device right now. I have a theory about why it's left off, but we'll get to that later in the video. But there's currently no way for you to connect any of your Bluetooth headphones or devices to the PlayStation Portal itself. There is a 3.5mm headphone jack, and I've used that and it works about as well as you think it would. One interesting thing is if you do have a wireless headset for the PS5 and it's connected to your PS5, you can use that. However, you do need to be in range of the PS5 and the dongle for you to be able to utilize it properly. Hopefully in the future Sony releases some sort of firmware update to bring the capability to the device. I remember that the Nintendo Switch, when it initially launched, didn't have Bluetooth, and then 3 years later it miraculously found a way to grant that ability to all of us. So here's hoping. Another big talking point on the device is the lack of the capability to stream games natively. Sony's actually come out and said that they might be able to enable the feature later down the road, but their main focus right now is making sure that it can do remote play to the best of its ability. So keep an eye out for that update if that is something that you're really looking for. The PS Portal will really work as good as your internet will allow it to work. I have fiber where I'm at, and so the results have been mostly positive. When it's working the way it's supposed to be working, you honestly forget that it's a remote device at all. It really just feels like you're playing your PS5 on a handheld. However, even with the best connection, you're bound to run into some sort of stutter or lag. And as is the issue with any remote or streaming device, input lag and latency are always going to be an issue. I will say the Portal has some of the best latency I've ever seen, and single player games are fantastic on here. You kind of adjust to the lag as well, understanding that on certain prompts you're going to need to hit the button a little early. But getting into online multiplayer games is something I probably wouldn't recommend. But if you're going to be playing competitive multiplayer games on a handheld, the PlayStation Portal probably wasn't in your wheelhouse anyway. It should be noted that if you're skeptical about your internet connection, you can download that PS Remote app on your phone right now and test out how it would work. That might be a good option for people who are kind of teetering on the edge because they don't know if their connection will be solid enough. Also, let's just make sure we're on the same page that this device can be used anywhere, that there is a good enough Wi-Fi connection. Sony recommends 5 megabits per second, but I would recommend something a bit higher. It just needs to be that the device is connected to the internet, your PlayStation 5 is connected to the internet, and your PlayStation 5 is on standby mode. And then you can access your PlayStation from literally anywhere in the world that you have all of those things checked off. So that's a pretty cool feature, and I don't think Sony communicated that well enough with the initial marketing. So why does this device remind me of an Apple device? Well, Apple is extremely good at taking something that's already widely available, in this case the PS Remote app, and simplifying that for people who are willing to spend extra money for convenience. And this device is extremely convenient, especially if you're someone who uses remote play often. You don't have to worry about killing your phone battery using this or carrying around extra DualSense. You don't run into nearly as many connection issues, and when you turn it on, the device just works. But it goes deeper than that. This device is really meant to keep you in the PlayStation ecosystem. It's meant to encourage you to buy games you might have otherwise bought on the Switch to play in handheld mode. It's meant to keep you trophy hunting and logging hours on your PS5. And then throw in the fact that Sony's new headset and earbuds are the only wireless headphones that'll connect to the PlayStation Portal. You can see where Sony is really trying to build their own walled garden of gaming. Whether or not that's for you is a personal choice, but it does seem to be trending that way. So is it worth it? Well, I think it's priced right around where it should be. Anything more, and I would say definitely don't do it. It seems like the device is already sold out and selling for way more than it should be, and my advice would be to hold off unless you can get it at MSRP or less. It's an excellent device if you're an avid remote play enjoyer already, but if you have no interest in that, it's probably not something for you. I personally love being able to go lay in bed and start knocking out some of the games I've been meaning to get to before I go to sleep, and I am interested in seeing future updates from Sony and seeing what the modding community can do with it as well. Thanks for watching this review. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy our other videos like this one where we talk about how Pokemon didn't exactly age with the audience that started its fame in the first place. Make sure to subscribe if you like content like this, and as always, stay authentic.